Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar addressing mental health, brought to you today by This is a Conversation Starter and Landscaping Victoria Master Landscapers. My name is Megan Flower. I'm the Executive Officer of Landscaping Victoria, and joining me today is Victoria Kelly, my colleague who will be assisting later to moderate our audience questions. We also have two guest speakers from This is a Conversation Starter, which I'll now refer to as TIACS, just to save myself a little bit of breath. But before I introduce those speakers to you, we'll just highlight some housekeeping elements for this webinar. We're not using the chat function today, but we are using the Q&A function button, which you can see at the bottom of your screen. If you have a specific question for a panelist, please indicate that in your question and we will get to as many answers as we can. We will be holding all questions until the end of the webinar, and then Vic will take the reins for us and moderate the Q&A. This session is being recorded, and due to the nature of the content, we will keep this completely anonymous. So there is an option with that Q&A function to press an anonymous button, but if you don't, we will not be indicating who has asked the question. So let's get right into it. I will introduce our speakers to you now. We do have, you might be able to see there on the screen, we've got Nat and Dan, who are currently up in Brisbane enjoying the life. Nat Greenwood is a psychologist with TIACS, and Nat brings with her a wealth of experience in connecting with people. Nat has an interest in the impacts of isolation and loneliness on our mental and physical well-being. Dan unfortunately lost a close mate to suicide back in 2015, and it became obvious to him then that there was a significant lack of understanding around mental health, particularly with young men. So alongside his mate Ed Ross, the boys started Trademark, which is a social enterprise workwear company, back in 2018. And they knew that they wanted to further their work beyond the mental health conversation to actually providing a solution for anyone seeking help. Hence, This is a Conversation Starter was born. So Dan, I'll hand straight to you now, and you can further share your story about TIACS and TradeMutt. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Megan. Thanks again for getting myself and Nat along here. We're super appreciative for the support and for you to be calling on us. And we are hypersensitive to the fact that times down in Victoria are obviously the word unprecedented, everyone is sick of, but you know, people are under a hell of a lot of strain, stress and unfamiliar territory. And so with that obviously comes a whole lot of testing scenarios that are really pushing people to their limits. So I'll start with, you did give us a bit of a background on sort of who I am and Ed and how we started Trademark, but I suppose I'll sort of take you through the story and how we got to where we are and what we're hoping to achieve out of it, and then how Nat and the TIACS team come into the picture. So basically, as you said, yeah, I'm a carpenter by trade. I've got 10 years experience on the tools, no experience in psychology or formal experience in the mental health space. I met my co-founder, Ed Ross, on a building site in 2014. Ed came from Longreach in central West Queensland, fresh off a stint wrangling cattle and wrangling women, as he used to put it, but you know. We met on the building site, we got talking, and I've never heard anything like Ed. I've never met a real life cowboy before. He was incredibly annoying, and I'm just so damn patient. And so I was the chippy on site that got lumped with this bloke. So we used to work together. We used to work 7 days a week together. We do cashies on the weekends. And, you know, we always used to talk a whole lot of nonsense about different things that we could do, you know, with our lives, you know, things, what would you do if you won the lotto, all those kinds of things. And one thing that we used to talk about was how good would it be to wear some funky workwear to work? How good would it be to wear something different other than your normal high-vis or camo or your khaki, sorry. And so that was an idea that was sort of festering away, and, you know, we didn't really do anything about it. But as you mentioned, in 2015, one of my best mates that I made when I first moved to Brisbane, it became like a brother to me. I woke up on a Sunday morning at the beginning of December to the news that he'd tragically taken his life the night before. Now, that was my first experience with suicide. It was both mine and Ed's first experience with suicide. We obviously experienced that in very different lights because, you know, he was one of my best mates. He wasn't a mate of Ed's, but Ed experienced it as a, you know, as a number one sort of support network, I suppose, for myself at the time. So we both experienced it in very different ways. But what became blatantly clear, as you said, Megan, was that there's a significant lack of understanding around what mental health actually is and, what it means, to people in this country, particularly for blokes and, obviously particularly in the construction industry. And so, we really thought that something needs to change on a cultural level, on a social level, and the way that we interact and communicate at a peer-to-peer level and talk about this subject. It's otherwise remained elusive in conversation for tradies and blue-collar workers, but they are unfortunately at the rough end of the statistics when it comes to mental health. So we started to explore the concept of TradeMutt, of workwear, of work shirts, and we came up with these funky prints, and we thought, well, it wasn't us actually that came up with them. We employed a graphic designer because we don't have a design bone in our bodies. But we came up with these funky shirts, and we sort of thought, wow, wouldn't it be great if we could, given what had happened, losing my mate, wouldn't it be great if we could use these for a positive? And we learned along the journey about social enterprise and using profit for purpose and a model of business where you could actually try to stand for something positive and create positive change around a topic. Given what had happened, we thought, geez, it'd be great if we could use these to start a conversation about mental health and really, bring a bit of colour to the subject. So that's where we got to. It sort of everything fell into place, and it was definitely a bit of a wild ride there. A lot of people sort of looked at us and thought, work shirts for mental health, like, are you crazy? What are you doing? But, we had the blinkers on and we thought it was a good idea. So we went for it. We ended up with our first camo print, and it's a bit of an oxymoron to the whole message around making an invisible issue impossible to ignore. So that was March 2018 that we launched. And 2.5 years later, if I could have looked ahead to now to see what we might have been able to achieve, I would have told you that you're absolutely dreaming. The idea behind TradeMark work shirts is that we are making a mental health advocate out of anyone who puts on one of these shirts. And that's really, really important. As I said before, it's about creating human connection at a peer-to-peer level. So how it works is I wear this shirt, it's emblazoned with "this is a conversation starter" across the back. And I'm sending a message to anyone who sees me that I'm open to having a conversation and that I'm okay to talk about the tough stuff, no matter what it is. And I always act with empathy, with compassion, and take a non-judgmental approach. Now, that was the intention when we first started getting these shirts out into the world. One thing that we didn't see happening was the positive effect that it had on people who might have been struggling with mental health and who might have been, looking for an opportunity to open up, but really not felt comfortable to do so. We've had so many people coming back to us who have got on board with TradeMutt to let us know just how much it's helped them personally and how much wearing a colourful work shirt that's about mental health has empowered them to take ownership of their own mental health and be able to feel comfortable and open to talk about that with their peers. So basically where we've got to with TradeMutt is we wanted to drive the much needed social and cultural shift in the way particularly blokes and tradies perceive and talk about mental health. So after growing the work shirts, we started our 120 Grit podcast, the podcast for the working class. Now, it wasn't enough for us to be able to be asking people to talk about mental health if we weren't prepared to do it ourselves. So this is our approach to being able to show the conversations that we're trying to promote in action. Now, we've been super lucky to grow the podcast really well, and it's got a good solid listenership. We've had some awesome guests from the likes of Darren Lockyer. You probably wouldn't know these guys down there because this is rugby league, and I know you're in AFL country, but Darren Lockyer, David Shillington. We've had Greg Martin, Triple M radio host, and just most recently, 2 weeks ago, we had John Millman, the Australian tennis player. In. Now, all of these guys have got incredible stories of resilience and overcoming adversity. And they've all got really, really great detailed recounts of how they got through different hardships in their life, even when the odds were stacked against them. And so that's the biggest thing that we're trying to get across with the podcast. It's about the power of resilience and about the power of overcoming adversity and the fact that any hardship that we ever face, there's always a silver lining on the other side. And you might not be able to see that at the time when you're in the situation that you're in, but that is what resilience is. It's about It's about using your grit and all your determination, leaning on your support networks around you and opening lines of communication to allow you to get through that hardship, for that silver lining to present. Because you can ask anyone who's been through anything in their life and they will always tell you that there was a positive that came out of it that they didn't see coming. So we've also recently launched TradeMutt Toolbox Talks, which is basically a webinar series that we're using our leverage within the industry and within the mental health space to be able to call on professionals in their field to deliver educational, pieces and resources via exactly like we're doing now through a webinar to our community and beyond. Basically, we believe that in the mental health space, it is such a multi-layered topic and it's not a one-size-fits-all policy. And so we're sort of coming at it from a real preventative approach, talking a lot about social issues, things like, health and wellness, things like spirituality, relationships, finances, vices, drugs, alcohol, gambling, pornography, all of these kinds of things that all develop and all build into what is our emotional existence. So our toolbox talks are something that we believe our industry is entitled to, and that's the trades and blue collar industry, and they deserve it for free. So we want to be able to facilitate that kind of action because, at the end of the day, when it comes to this sort of conversation, this topic, education, and it needs to be free, So that's another way that we're trying to impact this mental health space. And lastly, we wanted to create a full circle approach. So we start conversations with our shirts. That's great. Some people are well equipped to handle these kinds of conversations, and believe me, they come in all forms of all different, shapes and sizes. I have had some of the most difficult conversations of my life since starting TradeMutt. I've also had some really bloody awesome ones too. But when you wear one of these shirts, you've got to be prepared that any time you wear a TradeMutt shirt in public, you might start a conversation that could potentially change or save someone's life. So there really is a responsibility that comes along with it. But if you find yourself having a conversation with someone and you're not equipped to deal with what it is that they've presented to you, that's where TIACS comes in. So looking at the mental health space, there's a lot of really great resources out there, a lot of great helplines, a lot of great crisis support services. But I suppose the problem for us is that a lot of it does seem like it's for crisis support, right? And what do people do before they get to that point? What do people do if they're just having a bad day, a bad week, or a bad month, or a bad year, as a lot of us are having at the moment? What do those people do who maybe don't feel like they are at crisis point? They may be not prepared to go and talk to the GP about it, but they'd love to have a yarn with someone. They text TIACS. That's why we exist. We want to exist on a far more preventative scale, I suppose, far more before crisis point, and provide a resource where anyone can get in contact with a mental health professional like Nat and just shoot the breeze. It can be about absolutely anything, It doesn't have to be that you're suicidal, and that's the biggest thing to remember. The other thing is what about the support networks and the families of people who are doing it tough? What about, let's say I'm suffering, severe depression, and my partner has to deal with that. My kids would have to deal with that. My parents would have to deal with that as well. And often those people don't know how to help the person who really is struggling. And so everyone ends up kind of being in a situation where they're all carrying a bit of a load, of someone else's struggles. So who do those people talk to if they are not sure how to help someone that they care about? They text TIACS. So we're here for those people too. One of the key, I suppose, learnings that I've had on this journey, as I said, I'm not a mental health professional, but I've had a solid lifelong experience of mental health, both personally and amongst my family and loved ones. One thing that is proven beyond doubt is the power of open communication. It is the single number one best thing that anyone can do, is figure out how to find a way to openly communicate what it is they're feeling and what it is they're going through. Now, I know I've been in these situations where you feel like you're the only one in the world who is going through what it is you're going through. And sometimes you think you must be crazy or you must be absolutely mad to be feeling the way that you're feeling, because they're unfamiliar feelings. Believe me, there is not a person on this earth who has not felt that. So I suppose the biggest thing to take away from me is that finding the strength to open up and talk about some of the things that you are going through, whether it's fear, uncertainty about the future, added stress, added financial stress, everyone's keeping a roof over someone's head. There's a lot going on, throw COVID into the mix and it's just an absolute powder keg. But the most important thing to do is find a way to feel comfortable to open up that dialogue, whether it's through the TIACS Foundation, whether it's with your mates, whether it's with your loved ones. The minute that you find a way to let those words out of your mouth, it is like an exhaust pipe for a car. If a car didn't have an exhaust pipe and they just kept it all inside, eventually the whole thing's just going to explode. From what I understand, I'm not a car guy. I'm pretty sure that's how they work. It's exactly the same with our mental health. The importance of talking openly about this stuff is crucial. And the trick to it, right, is when you practice opening up, when you do it once, it's easier the next time. And then it's easier the next time after that. The more you do this, the easier it gets, the more well equipped that we become to be able to handle different situations when they arise in the future. So it's a bit of a strange one. If you ask people who have been there and who have finally found a way to open up and talk, they will tell you the exact same thing. It's like letting a load off and it gets easier and easier and easier. So that's essentially the TradeMutt story and why we founded TIACS. The other thing with TIACS is we really wanted to be able to remove the physical and financial barriers that exist that prevent people from being able to access professional mental health support provided by the likes of Nat. From what I've been through before, you got to go make an appointment with a GP. You got to get on a mental health plan. You got to go and make another appointment with a psychologist. And this takes time. I know I've been there. I cancelled 3 appointments with my GP before I got on my mental health plan about 10 years ago, because every time my appointment came around to see the GP, I thought, no, I'm right. I don't feel the way that I did when I made that appointment. But then it comes back again, For me as a tradie, right, we work often, from 6 a.m. till, 3, 4 p.m. in the arvo. There's not really any time during the day to go and, go and see the GP, nor does anyone ever really feel like they want to let the team down. People often don't feel comfortable to ask their boss, say, hey, mate, I need to take a couple of hours off to go and do this, because they know that the job will suffer if they're not there. So it's a real catch-22 for tradies. We want to be able to help those guys connect easily through TIACS. Now, it's a service that you can text. It's a service that you can call. You can use it at smoko. You can use it sitting in the dunny at work. You can use it in bed at night. It doesn't matter. It's at the touch of a button. It's free. It's professional, and we're your mates. Whatever, at the end of the day is what we say. Whether you're a tradie, a truckie, or a blue collar worker, don't let it get any harder. Text or call. This is a conversation starter. That number is 04888 469 88. And I encourage anyone to use it to reach out, even if you're in a good frame of mind. You can ring up and have a chat for 5 minutes. You can see who's on the other end. It doesn't matter. It's all cool. And if you do that, it gets far more easier to do it, again, when you might be struggling. So that's about it from me. Do you want me to hand over straight over to Nat, or should we go back to Megan?
You weren't lying when you said that you like to have a chat, but thank you very much, Dan. And importantly, we've got the, you said it, we've got the phone number, which we have at the end of our presentation. And of course, people can find it by going to tiacs.org as well, which is TIACS.org. So yes, terrific intro then in terms of your experiences, Dan, and what you've set up now with the organisation to have people like Nat there on staff. So Nat, we'll hand straight to you, and if you'd like to give us some of your insights. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. So I'm on the phone line and texting and seeing people at the court face. So and what we're actually seeing is people are feeling really cut off from each other, and there seems to be like a disruption to people's social routines. So when the pub shut down in Brisbane, people got out of that routine on a Friday night or going and seeing someone for coffee in the morning, and then they just didn't keep doing it. It's actually hard because you've got to, I don't know, you guys aren't actually seeing anyone at the moment, but you have to still check in. So people aren't doing that. And what is a really big problem is that loneliness was a real problem in Australia before this pandemic, with 1 in 4 people feeling incredibly lonely. But since the pandemic, we're actually seeing a disruption. And when I describe loneliness, it's not that you're not around people. It's basically, do you have someone who's got your back? Do you have a group of trusted friends around you that you feel supported by? So people can be incredibly lonely, even, you know, in a group of a lot of people. In fact, surrounded by 50 people, sometimes famous people are the loneliest people in our society, which seems counterintuitive. And so the reason I really want to talk about this disconnection today is that there's strong evidence that it actually doesn't just affect your mental health, which increases your depression and schizophrenia and all those things, but it actually increases your rate of stroke and your rate of heart attack. And it seems to be that the body responds to loneliness like it's being under attack. So your body feels unsafe, and it gets this cellular inflammation that happens. So it makes you less able to fight diseases. So your body actually has an inflammation response. So people, when they think of mental health, go, so just with my head, but it actually affects your body. And actually, they've had neuroscientists have actually now described it as smoking, similar to smoking 15 cigarettes a day, having the same response on your body, and also increases your likelihood to die early by 26%. So these are fairly huge things. So it's not just a mental issue we're looking at. And unfortunately, when someone starts to feel disconnected, there's other things that happen. They also basically can't seem to connect with others. They can't reach out. They distrust people more. They're more suspicious. So you can see they get into this damaging cycle. And also, the other thing is people don't reach out because they don't actually see themselves as lonely, because they're surrounded by people and they think, well, I'm not lonely. I've got, you know, a group of families and friends around me. So, and also they tend not to want to reach out anyway, and they also don't see connection as an important thing for them, so they mistrust a lot of other people. So you can see this turns into a vicious cycle. So you've got a lonely person who doesn't want to connect anymore. So this is what we're most concerned about as psychologists during the pandemic, is this real disconnect. Now, surprisingly, obviously just putting people together is not going to work. And for some reason, psychotherapy has really struggled to get under this underlying issue. But some recent research done in April of this year basically has been fantastic, because what they've actually found is they did this experiment where they grabbed 200 really lonely people and they got them to do jobs and errands and just reaching out to people in terms of just asking how they were, fixing computers, over a 4-week process. And they measured their blood before and looked at the inflammation in their blood cells and their bloods after, and found that their inflammation of their blood had significantly decreased and they felt significantly less lonely. So what we've actually found from that is that reaching out to other people, being concerned for other people, seems to have an incredible health benefit for you, not just for the person you're asking, but for you. So I'm asking people to ask about people's mental health and care about people, because it actually will help you with your connection as well and your mental health. So I know that sounds pretty counterintuitive, but it's actually really good evidence, and that only came out in April 2020. So this is really new stuff that we're looking at. So there's other things that people are talking about, and this is keeping a healthy routine. And everyone goes, oh, a healthy routine, yeah, I've heard it all before. But I want to actually sort of get down to the science of why that's important. When you get out of routine, you actually have your brain actually reacts to it. It actually has been well trained, your brain. It doesn't think very much. So when you're actually, just for example, mice, when they're training a mouse to go through a maze, they put a little tapper on its head, and they measure its neurological responses, and they find that it sort of fires all the time while it's learning this new little track over 4 weeks. And by the time it's learnt its track, it only fires at the beginning, these little neurons, and it fires at the end, and it doesn't think in between that. So you can see what actually happens with your brain thinking, that you're not thinking when you're in a routine. It keeps you going in this momentum. But when you get out of routine, what happens is you have to think really hard about establishing a new one. And what people tend to want to do, they go, I don't want to think too hard. I think I'll have a drink, or I might play that video game, or I'll watch TV, because thinking is really, really difficult. And we can actually measure that in your brain, because we can see your neurons firing when it's trying to learn new things. And it takes good 4 weeks of that hard work. But once it's set up, it's easy. And I think you'd all know.
Sometimes I wonder how many of my neurons are following that.
Yeah. So what I want to say is exercise in the fresh air has been known to help. Keeping same time routine, your brain will stop having to think as hard, and just notice also how much you've changed since what you were doing, 4 months ago to what you're doing now. Look at how much you've deteriorated and swayed away from that, and try and create a new healthy response to this pandemic. So that's my my end point. And if people need to talk to me, I'm there on the phone on 0488 46988. So over to, is it Victoria or
it's like a telethon. We should have had the number scrolling across the screen for everybody, but yeah, just again, we will have that up at the end of the webinar. Thanks for that, Nat. It really is interesting, and I can see myself when I look down at my ever expanding gut that yeah, getting out of routine is it makes you feel pretty poor, doesn't it? When you get sloppy, and it's very easy for everything to cave in on top of you, and very easy to pick up a drink at the end of the day. And particularly because of this stage 4 restriction that we're currently in Victoria, I think with everybody being under curfew from 8 o'clock, there is no ability to go anywhere. So it makes it even more problematic, I think, for people to reach out for those vices rather than potentially reach, for a set of dumbbells or a couple of cans of baked beans or whatever it is that they can do in the house to try and stay active. Quite problematic. On the line today, we also have a couple of Landscaping Victoria Master Landscaper members with us who have kindly joined us today. They're prepared to have a chat to everybody and talk about their own personal experiences. So Adam, if I could get you to come on mic and on screen, that would be great. This is Adam Hompus, and Adam, I'll just pass straight to you if you'd like to share your stories around mental health.
Sure thing. Thanks, Megan. Hi, everybody. So pretty much, I guess I wanted to sort of just briefly start about, I guess, how it sort of affects the attitudes and the well-being on site. Obviously, considering that this is the industry we're in, it's tradies, there is definitely a very big, whether it's a she'll be right attitude, sort of hard enough, noticed over the years, especially from being an apprentice back in the day. It's really, really good to see. I think the main thing, what I sort of wanted to talk about at the start, was recognizing the signs of when people may need help, and making sure, like obviously as a business owner or a supervisor, to make sure that we are approachable. At the end of the day, I do think to a lot of the young people that come through as apprentices, we evidently become their mentors, and they will look up to the leaders and supervisors. And I guess the main thing was just generally checking in and just seeing how they're going, making sure that it's a comfortable place for them to open up and to actually sort of know that they can confide in you and speak, because I think that's really, really important. But I guess from my experience, what I've had a few younger guys that have moved on and everything's fine and all good, but they did struggle with a lot of anxiety, and there was a fair bit of substance abuse. And I did notice it from an early period when on a Monday morning, one of them would show up, and you could just tell that certain things weren't computing. And instead of trying to sort of have an attack or crack it or whatnot, you know, simply just sat down, had a talk and said, what's happening? You know, like, what is going on? You know that you can speak to me. And sure enough, this young individual completely opened up to me and said, yes, this and this. And there were a lot of things happening at home that you would not have known if I hadn't have actually approached this person. And sure enough, what we did is, instead of just leaving it there and saying thanks for a comment chat, I actually went further and spoke to people around him that cared a lot for him, whether the parents, and turns out this individual ended up helping a great deal. And they actually got back to me and said, look, thank you for actually being approachable, because they have in the past had certain bosses that sort of kicked them to the curb, because whether it was that hard enough attitude. And as a business owner, on one side of it, I 100% understand you've got your timeline, it's all money, but also this is a person that we're talking to, and we all feel like this. And it's really, really important to make sure that we become approachable, that they can actually confide, because in turn, them being happy and healthy is going to mean that they're going to deliver a much better outcome for you and for the business, evidently. Not that that's the main reason why you want to support, but so that was, I guess, what I wanted to touch base in terms of, I guess, as an employer onto staff. But personally, I guess back in the day when I was an apprentice, I never sort of, as I said before, I did notice a great deal of shift since, you know, back in the day when I was an apprentice to now running my own business and to what we have today. Things are a lot more open, which is great, but just small little bullying things that I guess I did notice towards myself from senior trades they kind of kick you around a bit. And I personally didn't take too much to it, but I saw others doing the same thing. And I guess that was something that I noticed. And once again, I had a fantastic supportive boss who did what I did to this other individual, pulled us in and had a talk individually. You know, I actually did grow up with a fair bit of trauma there early on, and there was a lot of moving around, and there was unfortunately a fair few passings in my family that were really, really struggled to get over. And obviously we're all in the landscape industry here, and to be honest, the landscape industry is what made me become so much healthier. I used to be in hospitality, in my opinion, quite unhealthy lifestyles, and I did push it a lot. It was a lot of hazy Monday mornings there, but within going into our beautiful industry, in turn, getting that routine of getting up, going to work, fresh air, outdoors, physical activity, I couldn't reiterate more about how that actually helped. So I guess that was sort of, honestly, I could keep going and going, but I think I sort of want to keep it there just to not overwhelm anything. But I guess, as I said, the main thing is we try to do at work is create a really, really approachable work culture where we are all there to work, but we can speak. And on a daily basis, I make sure I say to the guys, I never say anything. Make sure I say a comment to them that lets them know that if there's anything's up, I'm approachable. Like if I see one of the boys on the phone a fair bit, I'd be like, okay, like, is everything okay? Like you have been on the phone a bit more than usual. If you need to take 10, go take 10. I prefer to do it there than next to your angle grinder where you could potentially hurt yourself or others. And I've found doing those small things has really, really engaged the crew to come forward more and to talk to each other as well is what I really encourage.
That's terrific.
So look, as I said, I could keep going. I won't because I think it's good to pass on others. But that was about it pretty much.
Wonderful. Thanks, Adam, for sharing that. And I think you are right. I think there is, it's a very slow, but there is a cultural shift away from the she'll be right or get over it attitude. And I think in terms of being a business owner and trying to get the best out of your people, which you can only do by them being the best version of themselves, and having an approachable attitude by yourself and within the crew, I think is really, really important. So thank you very much for sharing that.
No problem.
Russell, if I could get you to now come on mic and on camera and share your story, that would be great.
Thanks, Megan. Hi, everyone, and big congratulations to Daniel and TIACS. It sounds amazing. We've actually got one of our boys is our mental health ambassador, so we're chasing a couple of shirts for Joshy. He'll be wearing them very soon. I guess just a quick intro of myself, and then understanding how I use that as in our business, I guess. But I guess the really big thing that I've been probably to the bottom of the well with a couple of family members. One, my ex-wife, for a lot of years, severely depressed, and a couple of attempts with overdosing. More cries for help, but shit can go wrong in those situations, you know. And the other one, I've had 8 years of a lot of trouble with our son, Tom. About 8 years ago, Tom suffered a lot of bullying, which was similar to what we'd see on our work sites many years ago, and got pushed and pushed, and I found him on a train line screaming his head off just to leave him there. He wanted to end his life. So dealing with those situations, and into adolescent psych wards for quite a while, and then getting him out of there and sending him over to Perth to health farms, and ongoing. Tried to get him in our business working, had a couple of goes at that, in and out, and really struggled with it. Sometimes it was good, sometimes not so good. Yeah, it just keeps going and going. This mental health, it's not great. All the way to in January, he was dragged out of our swimming pool and given CPR. He had the navigator cord around his neck, and we're lucky he's still here, Tom. So been to the bottom of the well, and we work our way through it. So I just thought, how can I help my crew? You know, talking, listening, and all those sorts of things. And what I found, and it came out of discussion with one of my team members, and he had a terrible, rough life, all the way down to living on the streets for a little while. But what kind of came out of it was that structure, and Nat spoke about that earlier, funnily, that they felt if they could keep going to work, the structure was there, so they had that routine. So then that flowed into balance. So with landscape also, we've got this vision, so then they could start their creativity side, and then they got the reward at the end because we've done this fantastic project. So if we can help that part of their life by holding on to that structure, giving them, you know, the vision, and they've got that creativity to really keep themselves flowing, we can help with one of those pillars in what needs mental health to hold it up. So if that's one piece, they've got their self-esteem going good, their physical fitness, their socialising, their nutrition, and they've got that routine, everything goes okay. It actually never goes away, of course, but we can help there. I just think that we treat mental health a lot better now than probably 30 years ago when I first saw it, and even down to 8 years ago. To hear the words that just get over it, it's like telling a cancer patient, you know, to get over it. It's just not going to work. You know, we really need to, as workers, as mates, as bosses, as husbands, as fathers, is to seriously take time out to check in. You know, check in with your mates, check in with your kids, check in with your workers. You know, as I've left work over the last couple of months, I've rang mates just to check in, and I found it made me feel good too. So it wasn't me just giving, I was receiving as well. So my thing is, you know, our guys rock up to work, and Dan spoke about this earlier, you know, brilliantly, Dan, you're all over it. You know, we don't know what's going on at home. So, don't assume everything's okay. And I guess the other thing is we also don't know what they're going home to. We've had people who aren't suffering mental health, but their wife is. So, you know, we have to swing on both sides of the tennis court there. So that's my take on it, you know.
And Russ, can you just tell us a little bit about what you've done in terms of putting one of your staff members into that role of being a mental health ambassador? I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah, it would be my idea. No, yeah, just we need that. Like they, you know, like Adam, you're right. Dan, sorry. Also, is they might not come to us, you know, because we're their boss, so they don't always say everything that's on their mind, and you know, so you know, well, are they going to go to your GM? Are they going to go to your supervisor? Maybe not. So we made one of our mature age apprentices our ambassador. He's our go-to guy. He's a lovely bloke, and he's got his health issues with it, and it's been fantastic. So he goes. He doesn't have to report into us. You know, it's in part of our toolbox. It's in part of management talk about and all those things. But it just gives them somewhere else to go, you know, on site.
And do you know if they're, without him obviously talking about what people are coming to him with, are they actually using him as somebody to talk to? They are approaching him?
Yeah. It's been great. And especially now, because a lot of the, you know, they're shut up at 8 o'clock at night.
Mm.
You know, it's really affecting a lot of people, not just businesses. People's lives have completely changed. The freedom of this beautiful country that we're used to has just been taken away from us. So it's more and more important right here, right now. So yeah, it's worked for us. It'll work even better with a couple of colourful shirts. I know that. So we'll put that order in.
They're pretty fancy, aren't they?
Yeah, they're great.
Dan and Nat, if I could get you to come back online, and Vic as well. Vic, I'll pass over to you, and if we could now address any questions that we've got and direct them to the appropriate people. Adam, if you want to come back online as well, in case anything is directed to you or you'd like to contribute to the Q&A. Thanks, Vic.
No worries, thank you. Now we've had a couple of employers who've asked the same question, and Adam and Russ have both touched on this, how they handle mental health issues within their own staff. But Dan and Nat, is there anything else that you can add about how you as an employer or a manager can approach a staff member if you think they're struggling with their mental health? Is there an icebreaker that you've got up your sleeve that's guaranteed to work?
No, there's no guaranteed icebreaker, Victoria, basically. But reverting to some of the stuff that Adam talked about how he actively opens up that opportunity and opens up that line for communication. And it's not about, you know, it's not about rousing on your staff for not getting things done. You know, it's as simple as being observant and understanding that if someone's on their phone, like Adam said, more than usual, instead of getting up them and adding to their stress, finding out if there is something exactly like what Adam said. So that is the way that we need to move forward as employees. We need to be far more aware in general and understand that, you know, if we look after our employees as best as we can, well, then the rewards will come back tenfold in the business. But in terms of how you approach someone who you think might be struggling, the number one rule for me is just because you're ready to talk, it doesn't mean that that person is going to be ready to talk. So you might approach that conversation with the best of intentions, but they may just not be ready to have that conversation yet. Another key thing to remember is that understanding time and place is crucial. So it's not really appropriate to spark up one of these conversations in front of everyone else at work or in front of everyone in the lunchroom. You've really got to pick a moment, you know, either before or after work, where you can maybe just have a really, you know, a non-confrontational one-on-one, or even open up the opportunity for a coffee or a beer or anything like that. So those are my biggest things is both of those. So
yeah, I'll just add to that. When you see somebody, trust your instincts. If you've noticed they're not chatting as much, and you can, over the last 2 or 3 weeks, sort of just watch them. But then when you go to approach it, make sure that you're in a good headspace, that as you said, it's a quiet space to talk, and also approach it in a non-threatening way, like be friendly and open, and maybe say, hey, I've just noticed that you haven't been talking, or you've been withdrawing a bit by yourself over there, not talking with the rest of the mates. So is everything going okay at home, or is there any way I can support you? And if they don't want to talk, just say, oh, it's okay, just keep checking on. But when they open up for a chat, you've got to be ready and prepared that this could go on for a bit. So you have to make sure that you have time, because if then you go, that's a bit. you might do more harm than good, because suddenly they feel, well, I've reached out and no one cares about me anyway. So make sure that you're really preparing that space, and then when they do chat, just listen and reiterate what they're saying. This is what we do in psychology, is usually hear it and reframe it in a way that you've understood it, so they feel heard. And then try and get some type of call to, like, an action from them, like, oh, I've got a really good GP, he, offers free sessions, or, I found this information. Sort of try and get a call, like sort of an action, and then just afterwards check in. And that's the sort of 4 main things as psychologists we tell people of how to reach out. Is that fairly, Right. You've heard that before?
Yeah, no, it's great.
Excellent, thank you. Now we've had another question from somebody who says, I seem to be getting angry at things that wouldn't normally make me angry. Why is this happening to me right now?
Well, they've basically looked at COVID as the same as stages of grief, actually. So this is what the new research is coming out and saying, and anger is part of a stage of grief. And the reason this is a grieving period is that life is pretty much changed, and we don't know whether it's going to get back to normal. So people aren't accepting. So grief's about accepting the new normality that we're in. And often people don't want to accept it, and they feel angry about the situation. They fight up against it. So that's a good reason why you'd be getting angry, because you're actually following those stages of grief. And they're actually doing a lot of research right now on it. It's quite fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. Now we've had another one, and this is a really good question, and this is open to anybody. What are your thoughts on encouraging self-development and personal growth for staff and business owners to build self-awareness, much in the same way that you need to continually maintain your car to have it running at peak performance?
I'm happy to jump in here. So I think it's absolutely paramount. I think now more than ever, we understand that professional development is key. We are a growth animal. If we're not sort of growing as humans, then if we're not sort of going up, well, then we're kind of just plateauing and slowly going down. So yeah, I think, we're a much more informed and enlightened society now. And, the trade sector is no different, so what I was sort of alluding to when I was talking about our TradeMutt toolbox talks before is that's our approach to being able to offer educational resources around self-development and around self-management is a massive one. And these are things that you don't just read once and you're like, yep, I've got that and I'm good. This is stuff that we need to be practicing continually. It's that muscle memory. It's like anything, you get good at what you practice, and these things are crucial for us to be practicing. So yeah, we're holding a day on Friday within our own team here where we're having a third party come in and do a little workshop for 4 or 5 hours with us about communication and interpersonal relationships, because that's a massive thing. Understanding relationships within workplaces and effective ways of communicating. It's different for everyone. But to have a well-functioning workplace, everyone needs to understand everyone else's communication styles. And so that's something that we want to bring in and just show our staff that we are actually, we're invested in hearing them and listening to them. So yeah, to answer your question, it's crucial. Yeah, encourage it highly, self-development.
Excellent. Now this one's just, it's more of a comment than a question. This one's for you, Russ. Somebody just saying that they love your initiative of putting on the mental health ambassador, somebody who's not the boss, so that employees have somebody else to talk to if they don't feel comfortable going all the way up to the top. So well done, Russ. Excellent idea, and hopefully other people are able to implement that within their own teams. Good job. And it looks like on that positive note, that's the last of the questions that we've got here. But of course, if anybody has any other questions, they can always send them through to us in the office. You can jump onto the TIACS website, www.tiacs.org. There's also a phone number that you can call and text, and you'll see that at the end of this session. So just because you don't have a question right now, there's always time to ask a question when you need to ask it down the track.
Terrific. And just a plug also for TradeMutt, TradeMutt.com, where you can get all that great gear and perhaps, you know, think about having somebody on your team be a mental health ambassador and wear the shirt that starts the conversation that can be had around this. And I'd also like to give a shout out to Boots for Tradies, which is a charity that we support here at Landscaping Victoria, who also donate some of their profits to TIACS as well. And that's how the connection came about for us to get Dan and Nat talking to us today. So that's just a reminder for all of our tradies out there. Sure, you've got a pair of boots that are haven't seen the end of their days yet, and they can be donated to Boots for Tradies, just not right now. Obviously, with stage 4 restrictions, they're not doing pickups and that sort of thing. And nobody wants to hand over their boots with mud as well as coronavirus. So just keep those under your bed for a little bit longer until we can get them back up and get that system back up and running. But also, yes, have a look at TradeMutt and TIACS on the website. Dan, thank you very much for what you've done to create this fabulous foundation that you have got together with Ed. I have tuned into a couple of the 120 Grit podcasts. I do find them quite entertaining, so I feel like I know you already, even though we only met today. And Nat, thank you very much for your time today, and hopefully you might be hearing from, well, I'm unhopeful that they call you, but if they do need to reach out and they need your services, I'm sure it would be great for you to hear from some landscapers down here in Victoria and help them through with their struggles that they've got at the moment, because it's really, really not great at the moment down here in Victoria. So, but I'm sure that even coming out of this, people will still have continual issues and battles, and we're glad that you're there to help support them. As you're saying, Dan, access to free and easy psychology is not easy at all. So the fact that you've got this foundation going, I take my hat off to you. You know, personally, I know some people who've had to deal with this, and it's really awkward to go through that whole system of the GPs, all that sort of thing. It makes it far more difficult than it needs to be. So I think the system that you've got is just incredibly fantastic and just makes it so simple and easy for people to reach out. So well done to you for doing that. Really appreciate the service.
Thank you.
And I think that will wrap it up for us now. We will make this recording available to people offline afterwards. So thank you for being with us today. And Vic, if you can slide that last slide over so that we do get the number up there for everybody, that would be fantastic. Keep an eye, obviously, on the Landscaping Victoria Master Landscapers website and on our socials, and we will update people as we can with any more information to help support you through these unprecedented and very, very challenging times. So thank you for joining us today.